Gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new season of The Unstoppable Singer. I am your host, singer, and vocal coach, Danielle Tucker. The Unstoppable Singer is an interview style show where I dive into the lives of real life professional singers who have achieved some incredible feats in their careers. We like to explore the challenges and the triumphs that come with a life under the bright lights. And we learn what being unstoppable truly means to them. So, if you are passionate about music and the stories of remarkable artists, then you're in the right place. Stick around because I'm going to introduce my incredible guest today. He is Dennis Diaz, hailing from the vibrant streets of New York City's Lower East Side. He's had a remarkable journey to share. He's a graduate of the prestigious Harlem School of the Arts, where he honed his vocal prowess, and his journey since then has been nothing short of spectacular. Dennis has graced both the theatrical and musical stages with credits that include performances in productions like Marvel's Rogers, the musical, the first national tour of Stephen Schwartz, Captain Louie, and many more. But that's not all. Dennis has shared the stage and collaborated with some of the music industry's brightest stars, from Alicia Keys to Elton John and beyond. One particular highlight is his incredible duet with singer-songwriter Jason Mraz on the chart-topping hit I'm Yours, which garnered national attention on the hit network television show I Can See Your Voice. Today, Dennis calls Los Angeles home and continues to headline performing arts centers across the United States, spreading his musical magic far and wide. So without further ado, welcome, my friend. It
Hello!
is
Thank you
Dennis
for having me, Danielle.
Diaz. It's great to see you.
Nice to be here.
Yep, I have a nice history with Dennis. I've had the great fortune of sharing the stage with him, and so I know firsthand what a phenomenal vocalist and performer he is, and just a great guy all around.
You stop that. Thank you so much. I mean, all the same to you for sure. Absolutely. Yes.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm excited to catch up with you, but
Oh, I
so for
know.
starters, why don't you bring me up to speed with how is 2004? I was going to say 2004. I need to get with it. How
Listen,
is 2024 starting out for you?
I mean, thankfully, 2024 has been starting off with a bang. I've started a U.S. tour with a group that I'm currently working with called The Suits. We're actually in the middle of our first and second leg of the tour. We'll be going out again at the end of this February. And I also started rehearsals for Disneyland California Adventures Food and Wine Festival for this year, which is really exciting, and it premieres in March. So got a lot of things going on this month. It's a little hectic, but super exciting, and looking forward to everything for sure.
Amazing. I love that. Lots of good things on the horizon. And I
Mm-hmm.
definitely know you to be somebody that always has their hands full, always, a lot of things in the mix. So you're in high demand and you're out there hustling and doing the thing. So what I'd love to do is back up. Let's go back to the beginning for you and tell us about how music ignited in your life to begin with and what your musical journey has been up to this point.
Wow. So I would say that, literally music has always been a part of my life. I know that sounds really cliche, but ever since even before I was born, especially my mother, my mom is a super avid music listener. She's also, I mean, I'll give her the title of, we'll call her a vocalist. But, I wouldn't necessarily say she's a singer, but she has a voice and she uses it with confidence and pride. And so that's definitely something that I learned from her. But ever since, I was young, I'd always hear my mom playing different kinds of genres of music and singing along. And it's funny because, and just in a show that I did on tour recently, during one of my songs, I was telling the story about, they had asked us, when was the first time we sang, and our first memory or first time someone told us that we actually sang. And I have a funny story. My mom used to tell me all the time that seems a little bit unbelievable, but also, I mean, those are her words, so you can't argue with your mama, I suppose. She says that when I was about 4 to 5 months old, she was like holding me in her arms and rocking me, and she was humming a lullaby to me. And she said that as she was humming, that I repeated a bit of the melody back to her. like, I don't know if I cooed, cod, or wad, but
Mm-hmm.
she said I repeated the melody and she kind of freaked out and placed me down like, whoa, what is going on? So I would say just, I think mechanically, I've always kind of been a singer.
Uh-huh.
But I would say in terms of where my music and my passion comes from, it's definitely my mom and being raised as a Puerto Rican in the Lower East Side of New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, when was it in childhood that you started getting involved with like musical theater, or where did that all start for you?
So I've always had a love for all things. Like
Mm-hmm.
I always had like ADHD music where I wanted to pursue musical theater. I wanted to pursue classical music. I wanted to pursue gospel music and be a pop star and all the things at once. But I would say that I was always a very shy kid, very very shy. Like the biggest voice as a child with the smallest presence, because I was
Mm-hmm.
always afraid of what people would think, and such a vulnerable place to be in when to be singing, especially when it's so subjective and you don't really know what, sometimes kids can be kind of terrible, so you keep those
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things to yourself. But it wasn't until I would say maybe it was seventh grade, where my best friend Tiffany, shout out to Tiffany, um, there was a notice in my middle school PA system. They mentioned that there was a talent show, like a district-wide talent show.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I had always wanted to perform live in front of people, but I've only up until this point performed for like my friends and my family and all that stuff. And it's really hard to gain confidence when the only people that you perform for are the people that you know, because you kind of feel like they're blowing smoke up your wazoo, if you
Right.
will. Um, so I never really got an exterior like opinion of my voice, or validation, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So after being curious about this talent show, my friend Tiffany was like, Dennis, you should totally do this talent show. And I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't want to get made fun of. And so they were having open auditions in a school in the neighborhood. So she was like, let's just go and peek and see what it looks like. So we go up to the auditorium and they're having these auditions, and I'm like, I'm sweating. I'm like, my heart is pumping. And I'm just so nervous. And this is just the audition. Like, I'm acting like I'm about to head on stage for the Grammys. And so I'm like kind of like, testing the waters, listening to what people are doing and, vibing it out. And she kind of gives me this face like, I swear, if you don't enter this talent show, we're going to have problems. So I was like, okay. So I filled in the sheet and I submitted it and I waited and they called me and I auditioned and I got a slot in the talent show. Fast forward to we'll put a pin in. There's a teacher that actually was really imperative in helping me gain confidence for this performance. His name is Mr. Oliver. I want to come back to that. But fast forward to the actual talent show. I was like, I don't know, sixth or seventh on the roster to go up and perform, and all I wanted to do was sing my song. I didn't care about placement. I didn't care about applause. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to go up, sing my heart out, and leave. And that's exactly what I did, to a fault. I almost dropped the mic on my last note. I sang "She's All I Ever Had" by Ricky Martin, just FYI.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, I sang my last note, or whatever, and I was just like, boom, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. So
You're
I put the
done.
mic down. People were clapping. I went straight to my mom and my sister, and I was like, we can go now. And they were like, don't you want to stay and see like what happens? And I'm like, no, thank
Nope.
you. I just want to go. And then lo and behold, a couple days later, I get it's a Saturday afternoon. We hear a ring at the doorbell and the buzzer and the intercom, and it's one of the like parents that were on the PTA of curating the talent show. They buzzed to let me know that I had won first place, and I left before I could even
Oh my
get
God.
my award.
You
So he
missed your
brought me the
moment.
trophy, yeah, at home while I was laying in bed. Little did I know. So that was my first live performance, and that after that kind of broke the ice a bit and allowed me to really like become more comfortable singing in front of people and being more intentional with my craft. Hmm.
Mhm. That's amazing. I love that story. You mentioned you wanted to go back to Mr. Oliver.
Right. So Mr. Oliver, I think this is a great example of how the smallest gesture, when children and young people are pursuing something that they feel not very confident about, or is a super vulnerable place to be in, whether it's arts or, anything like that. Mr. Oliver was my videographer teacher in middle school. It was like an elective that we were able to take. And he was one of the kindest people. He passed away shortly after he was my teacher, maybe a few years after. But he knew that I was passionate about singing because he would always hear me kind of in the corner singing in his class. And I had never really used a microphone ever before this. I had always, wear a hairbrush or whatever, but I never had any proper mic technique. And so once Mr. Oliver knew that I was going to be competing in this talent show, he asked me, he was like, so, have you ever used a mic before? Like this, that, and the other. I'm like, no. And so he had a closet filled with so much equipment, like really high-end state-of-the-art equipment that wasn't being used for, the school. And he told me, he was like, I'm going to lend you this microphone and I'm going to lend you this auxiliary piece so that I can plug into my stereo. Mm-hmm. He was like, you take this home and you use it and you practice as much as you need so that you can have proper mic technique for your talent show. Whenever you're done, just bring it back. And that to me was like, it was the biggest boost that I could ever ask for, because this was somebody who I didn't even know was paying attention to me, and that smallish gesture, it just showed that he believed in me. He cared for me. There were adults out there that, were encouraging positive behavior because, I didn't grow up in the best kinds of neighborhoods. So, not everybody was trying to make positive things happen in their life and, going to talent shows. A lot of, the other kids were doing, not so fantastic things. And he really wanted to make sure that I stayed on that path. And so I will forever be grateful for that, because that just gave me that extra boost from the outside that I needed. That wasn't my best friend. It wasn't my mother or anybody that was really close to me. So I just wanted to mention that, to give him his props and to, give him his shout out, and also say that, just when we think people aren't listening and when we think that, people don't know whether or not we care, they're always wondering, and it's always nice to let people know that, especially as adults. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a beautiful story. I love that. And I think it's such a good reminder, just to never take for granted the impact that you can make when you pour even just a little bit of yourself into somebody else. And just our words matter so much. Our actions matter even more. And you just have no idea, when a positive thought about someone or an idea sparks that you could potentially contribute to someone, act on it. You'll never regret those things. And look how far it comes. And not even just children. Obviously, children
That's
is a
good point.
deal.
Yeah.
But as adults as well. I mean, that's an amazing story. I love it. So you're an award-winning singer at this point.
Oh.
Was this elementary school or middle school?
This is middle school, right? Like early middle school, 7th grade.
Okay. You're already an award-winning singer in middle school.
Listen, your words, right? I suppose.
You're you're the man now. And you're going into high school. Were you a chorus kid, or what happened during high school?
So chorus, so I would say that middle school was probably my most formative years in vocal development and life direction. That sounds super dramatic, but it's true. In terms of chorus, so my middle school was separated into 4 different houses when I was a part of it, kind of like Harry Potter, hilarious. But it was I was a part of the house called Micro Society, where they created small micro societies where the students were able to participate in like earning money, doing different jobs, like micro dollars. And we had a court system, we had a banking system, we had like a micro society. And because we had those perks, I suppose you could say, or like our house was set up in that way, we didn't have the infrastructure for a chorus. However, there's 2 other houses, I believe it was math and science and humanities, that did have access to the chorus. And that always tripped me out, because I'm like, why don't we get that same, opportunity? Yeah. So when I was in 8th grade, the year after the talent show, I was really adamant on trying to join the choir, and they were really like against it, because it would have been unprecedented to have somebody cross houses, right?
Unprecedented.
So So for eighth grade year, I asked my principal and, I it's my teachers. I'm like, is there anything we can do? Like, I really want to join a choir. I even went to my mom to ask her to go to our Catholic church because I was a big fan of the movie Sister Act too. Shout out to Whoopi Goldberg,
Yeah.
But I wanted to be a part of something like that. And so I go to my mom, I'm like, Mom, let's go to the Catholic church out in the Lower East Side where we grew up and see if we can start a choir. So we went to the priest or whoever was in charge at that time. And I was like, can we start a choir? He's like, we don't do that here. Like, not like that. We're not going to be singing Joyful, Joyful, Lord, we adore thee, and all of the style of Lauryn Hill.
Right.
So I was trying to find my outlet, and so I spoke to my teacher, spoke to my principal towards the ending of the school year, right before summer break. My principal gave me the green light to be able to cross over on my 9th grade year. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, like freak chance of nature, she ended up passing away during the summer. Mm-hmm. And so we had like this whole memorial stuff, but obviously she was one of the few people who knew about my crossover. So I had to push again more to ensure that this was something that she was, approving of. And so a few months after my 9th grade year started, I was let into the choir. Up until then, no one even knew that I was a singer, only the people who had gone to see me on that talent show. So I had not sung in front of my peers still, really. And then I joined my choir, 9th grade. It was fantastic. And then all that 9th grade was me pretty much prepping to go to high school because I wanted to audition for a specialized performing arts high school. So my choral director helped me in that process. But up until then, when I didn't have choral class in the 8th grade, I would go to her class and ask for pointers because I was also trying to audition for 9th grade performing arts high school. But that was during my vocal change and puberty, and that was a nightmare. So I auditioned for high school into the 9th grade during my puberty transition, and I would say that's probably one of the worst moments of my young life, trying to figure out and navigate my voice during that time. But that's the choral history for me.
That's an important point. That is I've seen it with my own eyes, can be devastating, to some boys, and I've seen it end passion for the craft of singing altogether, just out of the sheer frustration or sometimes humiliation of it. It's really a difficult transition to go through, but so glad that you saw it out, saw it through. To the following
light was
years.
dark, I'll tell you that much.
I
was not sure I went from Mariah Carey to Luther Vandross to Barry White in a matter of 2 weeks. So it was crazy. Yeah,
that's amazing. So did you ultimately go to the performing arts high school?
I did. So I ended up auditioning for both LaGuardia High School in New York City and Professional Performing Arts High School in New York City. So they are kind of like the two rival high schools, performing arts schools in Manhattan. And I got accepted to Professional Performing Arts, PPAS, with a vocal major, and started that year in my sophomore year in 10th grade. The funny thing is that I had never really auditioned for much up until then. And so I didn't have a book or like any sort of idea of what songs to go with to audition properly. So I decided it would be a good idea to sing the Folgers commercial made famous by the a cappella group Rockapella. That was my audition song for my high school, which for those of you who don't know is every day I wake up, pour myself a cup of that rich Folgers aroma, the best part of waking up. Yeah, so that kind of vibe. And she was like, that's fantastic. Can we do something that's maybe not a commercial? And I was like, sure, absolutely. So I went and I sang Oh Holy Night, the Christmas song. So clearly I wasn't really aware of the appropriate songs to sing in an audition, but it worked. So what can I say?
I bet that left quite the impression in their minds.
Probably.
It had to be like crazy different from everything else that they were hearing, but it worked.
It did. Yeah, thankfully. So yeah. And that was the beginning of my high school music career.
Uh-huh. And how was the high school music career? What did that end up leading to?
That honestly was what catapulted my current career in music. It was
Mhm.
like a crash course boot camp into how working in the industry truly is. The glamour is like, I have to give a shout out to my choir director, Chantel Wright. She was also our vocal teacher. She was also our manager. She had many, many hats. And she did such a great job at introducing us into the industry and also keeping us grounded.
Mhm.
Because a lot of my high profile gigs were through her when I first started singing. And so from going from a kid who was super shy, didn't really sing in front of a lot of people, then auditioning for this high school, getting into the high school, and then hitting the ground running, being into all these, you know, humongous spaces like Radio City Music Hall, Madison Square Garden, Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, like being thrown into these giant spaces and these high profile stages uh, can be very jarring
Yeah.
and especially if you're not ready and you're not conditioned. And so she did a really good job at conditioning us and reminding us, like, whenever we were in these big spaces, like, enjoy the moment, but do not get caught up in the moment. Enjoy the moment. Do not get caught up in the moment. Remember,
Mhm.
you still have to do this, that, and the other thing. And practicing was such a huge thing. Like, practice, practice, practice. If I would dream about practice, 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 because that's all I could hear in my head, her voice saying practice, practice, practice. But yeah, so that it really gave us a crash course. Like, I would start my academic day at 7:30 in the morning with my first period class, and then our academic day would end at 1:15 p.m. And then we would be all the students in our one building, in our academic building, would then be shuttled off separately, dependent on our majors, whether that be vocal, musical theater, drama, dance, or instrumentalist. And then we go to our respective uh, buildings
Mhm.
to work on our majors, our performing art majors. And so then our performing art class would start at 1:45 and end at 3:30. But then I was also a part of two specialty choirs on top of that, which is the Dorothy Maynard Chorale, which is one of the founders of Harlem School of the Arts,
Mhm.
and also the Songs of Solomon and Inspirational Ensemble, which was a original nonprofit choir created by Chantel Wright. And because I was a part of those two choirs, my day did not end until about 8 o'clock or
Wow.
8:30. And then I'd have to go home at 9 p.m. and do my homework, practice my music, eat, and
Mhm.
go to sleep and do it all over again. So that really put me in the grind mode to have to balance real life and also balance my
Yeah.
career. Um, and yeah, that was a real sobering wake up call as to it not being as glamorous as one would think, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so it turns out that it's a lot like that in real life, as you
Exactly
well
like
know.
that. And it helps you navigate a lot easier because you've already kind of got rid of all the distractions that could come up
Mhm.
when you're navigating through this career. You just like you keep your mind on the things that matter, your integrity, your voice, your honesty when you're on stage, and the business portion of it, and not allowing the glamour to supersede the business portion of it, so that way you have longevity and sustainability.
Yeah, great.
Mhm.
Wow. So you are just you're getting this incredible training, just real life training to step right into a career. Did things kick off professionally for you in New York, or what ultimately ended up bringing you to the West Coast?
So things kicked off for me for a few years during my teens and early 20s. That's when I was doing a lot of my background singing work for Elton John, Alicia Keys, Kelly Clarkson, Fantasia Barrino, a whole bunch of different artists, which was a lot of fun. And that was definitely a scene that I, really, really enjoyed.
Uh-huh.
But at some point, I felt like I was doing a disservice to myself because I wasn't really focusing on what I wanted to do and what my craft was and what my
Mhm.
trajectory was. I was gigging, which was fantastic, and I was in such a wonderful spot and totally grateful for it. But I felt like I needed to find my own voice. I needed to find my own path. So I started writing my original material and collaborating with different producers in New York City. Um, and just started performing at different bars and different clubs and bartending and, living that whole artist lifestyle for some time.
Mhm.
And then the life kind of took a hold of me the way that, kind of does. And I kind of put my craft and career on a little bit of a hiatus,
Mm.
to focus on life. And then I can't really explain when it happened, but at some point, like the light bulb just went on in my head. And I was like, hold up. I'm not doing what I need to be doing or what I should be doing, what I'm meant to be doing, and what I want to be doing right now, which
Mm.
is creating a career for myself that's based in my art and my craft, my passion. And so I, at that time was in 2014. So I'm on my 10th year being out of New York here in LA. Decided I need to move somewhere where the opportunity is abundant.
Wow.
And New York is fantastic, and that's my home, and that's where my heart is. And I love New York. I heart New York.
Mhm.
But I really needed a city that was more conducive for my well-being as a human being, and also that offered a lot more commercial opportunity. And
Mhm.
that was LA. And to give me a fresh start, to make me feel like I was hitting the ground running in a new place, in a fresh pond.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what brought me out here, to continue the pursuit of my happiness.
Yes. So that, I mean, that's a huge, bold move to make. Did you already have some established connections out in LA, or did you just show up here with your little suitcase in your hand and
Yes.
start knocking on doors, or how did
Well,
that
yeah,
start for
kind of,
you?
yes. So I knew two people, but I didn't know them extremely well. I knew they like I had a friend shout out to Lauren Ale. I had a friend who I moved in with, who I had met through another friend when I worked on cruise ships.
Mhm.
And I probably knew her for maybe about a month or two, so very, very short time. And then we ended up moving in together because she had a room available, and I was already planning on moving to Los Angeles. So that was one person that I kind of vaguely knew, but we ended up growing super close after we moved in together. And then I had another friend who I'd known from New York prior, but we weren't really in like constant communication. So it was an acquaintance at that moment. Now we've grown a lot closer that I've come out here. But it was just those two acquaintances that I knew. I didn't have any connections. I didn't have any business connections, no job connections, no career, no nothing. No, I didn't know anybody, no friends. So I just came out here with a hope, a dream, and some loose change, and hoping that, my hard work would, pay off. And obviously it's never been smooth sailing throughout the entire thing, but
Mhm.
just speed bumps, and I'd say my hydraulics are pretty on point. So
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah.
that'll definitely develop those for you. So
Hmm.
what types of things did you do? What kind of outreach did you just start trying to immerse yourself in the music community, or it's just networking?
So
What
I kind of, so it, it's crazy because I haven't really thought about it, because time flies, and like
Yeah,
things just kind of build, and then you're here, right? And we're here talking to
totally.
each other. But I knew that the number one rule for me was, when I came out here, I said, you better not say no to anything. 0%.
Uh-huh.
Yes, 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 yes. I don't care. Yes, 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 yes. Because I had zero network. And so I needed to make sure that I was in every space, whether it was a hit, whether it was a miss, whatever, just getting out there, meeting people, having people know that I'm here and I exist and what I do, and start to build that network. And it was a lot of work. It was a lot of like going to, get-togethers and with to places that I didn't know anybody. I was just showing up and being the only one there, and that's a super vulnerable place to be in. But you have to take that leap if you want to grow in anything, whether it's your network or anything. It's just like that fear. I had to get over that, because otherwise I would have moved 3,000 miles across the country to be doing what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I reached out, to the few people that I knew, like Lauren and my friend Chris, and then they introduced me to this person and that person. And then I met my friend Paige, who's also a singer songwriter, and we just started going to different open mics together, different bars, trying to book different gigs and all this kind of stuff. And that's how my network started to build. And then I did cruise ships, and then my global network started to build. And yeah, just, and then Disney, working at Disney, and then being a singer with the Alley Cats, which is America's premier doo-wop a cappella group. So just putting my foot in all these different kind of projects, small projects, really helped me branch out and create a nice network and a nice, little safety net of a
Yeah.
community, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
As you describe your journey, I see this pattern emerging in your life, starting back from really advocating for yourself, getting into the middle school choir, where that wasn't an opportunity that was really even available to you, but you had that desire. And even though you were shy and, lacking that confidence or whatever, you still advocated for yourself. You knew what you had to do, and you put the energy and the action behind it, and you didn't take no for an answer. And as you've kind of walked through those steps of your journey, it seems like nothing really came easy. You were the one that had to initiate all of those bold moves and really put yourself out there and ask for what you wanted. It wasn't like you didn't have a mentor that was guiding you, the whole step of the way, opening doors for you. You really had to do all of that. And that is such a, man, it's a remarkable quality to
You're gonna make me
have.
cry. You better stop.
Well, I don't think we reflect on these things enough in our lives. And I think it's important to go back and just kind of think about it every once in a while, because I think these patterns, they just become natural patterns in our lives. We don't even recognize that they're actually there until, we run into hard times or we need a new opportunity. If it's a particularly, I don't know, weak or daunting season of your life, I think it's great to know that you can pull from that and be like, you know what? I'm a person that for the last 20 years of my life has, been able to ask for what I want, advocate for myself, and this time should be no different because my results have always spoken for themselves. So
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, honestly, because, like you said, you do, we just go about our business and we do what we do and we just don't look back much, and
mhm.
to hear you say that, it really means a lot because it fills me with, a little bit of like some pride, and to tell myself like, yeah, that is true. Things have not come easy for me, and if anything, it's always felt like there's been pushback that I've
Yeah.
had to, you know, overcome and make sure that like even if a door is closed, like I'm finding a way through that door, or I'm
Mhm.
building a door. There's going to be a way to get through this wall somehow
Yeah.
or another,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and it's not so much fitting like a circle in a square. It's just finding the route. If you
Right.
if you know what your destination, if you know what you want your destination to be, yeah,
Right.
and
Yeah.
fear also. I think growing up and growing up in the environment that I grew up, at home and in the neighborhood and all that kind of stuff. I know that a lot of the times in the inner city, there can be a certain kind of generational mindset that kind of keeps us locked in a certain space,
Yes.
preventing us from really flourishing and growing to our fullest potential.
Mhm.
And a lot has to do with fear.
Mhm.
And I feel like I've always kind of recognized that. And the irony is that I'm someone who, I don't know what it looks like from the outside, but I don't know if it reads, but I'm super anxious. I have tons of anxiety and I have tons of fear that
Mhm.
festers within me, in my chest and in my stomach.
Mhm.
And it is so strong and so easy to just let it be like, okay, you win fear, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
respect, but I always have this like sobering, like, realization of, if I listen to that fear, if I really give into that fear, it's gonna lock me up. It's gonna imprison me. And so for me, it was always, if you're afraid, it's fine to be afraid. But once you're afraid, now your next step is it's to combat that fear,
Yeah.
overcome that fear, or move past through that fear. And
Yeah.
it's like kind of like jumping in a pool without knowing what the temperature is. as long as you know it's not boiling, and then as long as you know there are no icebergs, just jump. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's a really great insight too. I know that that is that's an exercise that I've really had to work with singers that have come to me with a lot of stage fright or performance anxiety, where their goal when they walk through these doors is I want to overcome this and get rid of my stage fright, get rid of my anxiety. But I really think the reality is for many of us that struggle with anxiety and things of that nature, I'm not sure it ever really goes away. I think
never.
you manage it, and I
Correct.
think that you have developed that mindset that I think is so important, where you just know this about yourself. You know the feeling, how it feels physically,
Hmm.
the patterns that emerge like mentally in that, but you can kind of look at it and say, yeah, I see you. I see you there. That you're real and I get
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
But, I'm going to do the thing anyways and see what happens, because I've
Right.
done it before and I didn't die, when
Right.
I did it before, you know, what could be the worst possible outcome in this situation? And could I live with that?
Right.
And I think the more we just embrace those things, going on with us internally, we kind of learn to use them as a springboard in our favor. I think they kind of, at least at this point, can kind of become an indicator that, like, okay, I'm feeling like super crazy inside about this. I'm onto something, I think.
Right.
You know?
No, I know that's like almost like, yeah, that you're 100% right. And to say that, to use it as a springboard, is a great way of putting it, because it does kind of fuel. It
Yeah.
fuels, the fear fuels, and that only fuels if you are conditioning yourself to create the tool in
Yeah.
order for you to use it as fuel.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it will just engulf.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just always breaking through. Fear is never the full stop.
Yeah.
Fear is a comma, not a period.
Yeah.
You just got to keep,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you also, on top of that, just to like compound that, have always you've seems you're a person, that you hear a no, but you don't really accept that as the end answer. That's not the final answer, for you.
uh,
No, it's more of like a maybe, where I mean, I would think the vast majority of us who would have that anxiety in the first place actually take no as a little bit of relief, because we hear that no and we're like, yep, I mean, I knew that. I
right,
knew this was going to be a no, so I'm good. And
right,
you just take it at face value, and you really can just spin your wheels for an eternity like that. But man, it's something else though to have the quality that you have, to be able to acknowledge the anxiety, to acknowledge the fear, but then to double down on it and be like, well, I'll show you, and I know what I want,
right.
and it's
It's a gift,
crazy.
and it's a gift for me, and I'm sure it was a curse for my mom. But
I'm telling
yeah,
you, I have a daughter, my 11-year-old daughter. She is the most hardcore negotiator I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, no to her is like a yeah, let's do this, but maybe later type
right.
thing.
No is a
She
different form
never.
of yes.
Yeah, and I always say, like, man, she gives me a run for my money so, so hard, but I always think to myself, like, this is such a badass quality. She is gonna be a
Right,
phenomenal woman when she
right.
grows up.
I love that.
You know?
Yes, you're like, let me not. I don't want to alter that too much. Let me just keep that where it is, real quick. Yes,
Yeah, yeah. I
I
I
love
pick
that.
my battles with her for sure, because I just know, she's really developing something inside of her that I think is gonna be, like, crazy powerful for
Oh
her,
yes,
when she gets older.
we love that. We love to nurture those qualities.
I
Yes.
do. I love it. I love it. So here we are today, current time, and you are, busy, busy, busy as ever. You are currently on your tour with the acapella group.
Well, no, I'm
And
on tour actually with the Suits at the moment.
oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
how long will the tour be for the rest of the year?
So at the moment, we are going to be touring until the ending of March, and then we will have some more legs added along. But as of right now, we're booked until the ending of March, beginning of April. And we have a few dates in Virginia. We have a few dates in Texas and in Colorado and in New York and Pennsylvania. So we'll be touring. We'll be bouncing around the entire country, and you can definitely find all of those dates on sunsetsingers.com. And look under the Suits tab, and that'll give you all of our dates of our upcoming tour. And then also have a artist showcase performing my own original material at the Bourbon Room on February 24th. It's hosted by a really good friend of mine, singer-songwriter Chawa, Bobby Werner. And that's going to be really exciting. There's going to be tons of different artists here, different genres of music, all showcasing a little bit of themselves. And then we have the Disneyland California Adventure Food and Wine Festival, which is super exciting. And that is going to be coming up in the beginning of March up until the ending of April. I'm not quite sure of the exact dates right now, but if you go online and you go to Disneyland.com, you can find all the dates there for the Food and Wine Festival.
Excellent. I love seeing you do your thing, Dennis. You're a powerhouse, and it's really inspiring just to see you make your way in the world and just out there, living the dream. I absolutely love it.
I want to hug you. Thank you.
I know. I hope I'll see you,
so
in person again. But just to kind of like summarize things and put a bow on this whole thing. The qualities that you have along the way. We've definitely talked about the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, the things that you've run into. But so my final question to you is, what makes you unstoppable?
Ooh, what makes me unstoppable? What makes me unstoppable? I would say my persistence makes me unstoppable. My perseverance makes me unstoppable. My emotional strength, whatever that means to anybody, makes me unstoppable. The desire to be a voice of my community, and for a fraction of the community that doesn't have a voice, makes me unstoppable. The passion in my heart and in my spirit that is just innately there from birth, and my desire to want to share that passion and emotion and love with the world makes me unstoppable.
I love it. Great answer.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you so much again for doing this. I know we've been trying to plan this for a really long time.
I'm so happy we finally did it. And I can't wait to see you in
too.
person. So I'm like looking forward to the day.
Yeah, me
Yes.
too. This was great. Thank you for your openness and willingness to share what you shared today. I know it's going to inspire everybody that listens to it. So I will let you have the rest of your day back, and thank you to everybody who's listened today. We will see you back here next week with another inspiring singer.
Yay.